Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's 2:30. We're going to get going here. We're expecting several more people to come in, but I am very respectful of your time. Thank you for joining me here today for the importance of social emotional learning. We're here. I'm representing Solved, your pre-K professional development solution, and also this content from New York State. So I want you to know a few things as we get started. One, this is being recorded today and it will be sent to you after this presentation. So if you don't care to be on camera today, I understand, but I also really appreciate if you do, because it's helpful to me and everyone else in the session to be able to see your amazing and beautiful face. So I'd like you just to take a moment while people are coming in to read our norms. I want you to know this blue one where we start and end on time. I'm, again, very respectful of your time. So I will be sure we end right at 3:30 today. And my biggest ask of you is to take an inquiry stance and also to be here now. So whatever it is you have to do on your to-do list, let it go for an hour and be here and engaged in this interesting learning about social and emotional learning. It says, please be sure to have on your camera. Again, that's up to you and how you feel today, but know that it's wonderful for me to be able to see you. So who am I? I'm your presenter, Dr. Caroline Habenwasser. I'm an instructional consultant for Solved, as well as a doctor in literacy education and 20 plus years as an educator, both in public school and at SUNY New Paltz. I prepared teachers for 15 years. I'd love to know who you are today. So if you could take a minute, I'm going to be asking you to talk to me in the chat a lot. So please chat with me today, or you're welcome later on to come off mute and talk with us. But right now, type in the grades or subjects that you teach and something that's making you happy today. It can be the tiniest thing in the world, or it can be huge. So my thing that's making me happy today is that I get an extra hour of sunlight, even though I think it's going to turn into a nor'easter and be covered with snow. I'm still grateful for that extra time. So I'm seeing we have all kinds of grade levels. We've got K through 8. We've got a high school secretary. That's amazing. And Rashina says there are 66 days left of school. So please forgive me if I mispronounce your name today. I'm going to do my best because I love to try and call people's names. We've got pre-K. We have so many different grade levels represented, and that's wonderful because we need all of those things, all of those grades working on SEL together. My puppies are 1 month old today. Who could not be happy for 1 month old puppies? Congratulations, Christy. I see your beautiful smiling face too. Thank you. That's exciting. I'm happy to have had a great weekend. Beautiful. We've got special ed. Happy to be here. Thank you, Mark. I'm happy for you to be here too. So let's go ahead. You can keep on typing. Keep on reading about what's making people happy today, because one thing I want you to notice, oh my gosh, Camilla, wherever you are, I can't see you right now, but Camilla is always happy. So everyone private text Camilla and learn her secrets, like get her to befriend you. We have a substitute teacher here who's grateful for their job. So thank you. Sharing what's making us happy. Happiness is contagious, just like stress, just like being upset, so is happiness. So thinking about what's making other people happy is a great way to start a session on SEL. So today we're going to be thinking about why social emotional learning is important to integrate into our daily practice, and then some ways we can do that. And in particular, we're going to think about the science behind SEL, because it's not just, ooh, it feels good. There's science that says why we need to be integrating this in our learning. We're going to learn about the CASEL's 5 competencies. What are the SEL competencies and how they link with our New York State benchmarks, as well as think about some SEL practices for our classroom, schools, families, and communities. So if at any point you have questions or comments, please let me know in the chat. If you have any technical trouble, put it in the chat, because we do have an amazing admin here today named Beth who can help us. So one thing I want to share with you right now is a note catcher. So we're going to put this in the chat, and I want you to take a moment and open it. It's a tool for you today. So I'm going to show you what happens when you open it. It's going to say, make a copy. So I want you to go ahead and make a copy. And then you're going to have a place to keep notes today, but also to go back and look at all the videos and different tools and techniques I show you today. So you can see in blue, each activity we do in our presentation will be numbered in this note catcher so you can follow along. So that's your tool. Make sure you can open that. And let's start today with a simple, making sure we're all on the same page about what is SEL. So here's what I'm going to ask of you. I believe in my mind I have set this up so when the video plays, you will be able to hear it. So let me know if that is true or not. Unable to open the file at this time. I'm just going to double check my settings. I'm going to make sure it says you can edit it and update it. Okay, so try one more time if you had trouble with the link. I've double checked the settings and hopefully you can. All right. All right, so give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, especially I can see Sarera, I believe is how to pronounce your name, and Lucretia, I can see y'all. So give me a thumbs up if you can hear this.
There's a lot of talk these days about SEL, social emotional learning. But
oops, sorry about that.
There's a lot of talk these days about SEL, social emotional learning. But what exactly is it? Social emotional learning is the process of learning social and emotional skills, and it's just as important as learning reading or math. This learning process is most effective when it begins early and continues through high school. Social emotional skills are essential for success in school, work, and life. With SEL, students learn to manage their own emotions and behaviors, have empathy and show care and concern for others, solve problems effectively, make responsible decisions, and maintain healthy relationships. Students learn to recognize what's happening inside them and to be aware of their emotions, which helps them deal with strong emotions and impulsive behaviors. It helps them stop, take a breath, and think about a situation before acting. Students learn to identify others' emotions and perspectives, which helps them empathize and show compassion, no matter who they are or what their background is. It's not difficult to imagine how this is important in the classroom and in life. Students learn to solve problems in peaceful ways and communicate assertively about what they need or want. This helps them get along with other students and get the help they need from adults. When students learn to make responsible decisions about their lives and their future, things can turn out better. Research shows social emotional learning makes a difference. Students who participate in SEL do better academically, have improved attitudes and behaviors, and act in delinquent or disruptive ways less often. In the United States, students with strong social-emotional competence are twice as likely to earn a college degree and nearly 50% more likely to graduate from high school and have a full-time job by age 25. Just as important, students who are socially and emotionally competent have more friends. This means they're more likely to feel connected to school and do well, and less likely to be left out or bullied. Simply put, By participating in social emotional learning, students learn the skills to succeed in every facet of school and the rest of their lives.
All right, so there's what it is and some research showing what it does. Here's some other research I want to share with you about why we need to teach it. And then we're going to look into what we're currently doing. So in 2019, pre-pandemic, the CDC reported that nearly 40% of young people were feeling sad or hopeless, including having suicidal thoughts. And that's pre-pandemic. So since COVID-19, that data point has increased to 44% young people feeling lonely, hopeless, and suicidal. So it's coming into our classrooms with children with really strong emotions. How are we going to help them? So here's what I want you to think about right now. This is a little self-assessment. If you are able to open your note catcher, please do so. Or you can look here, but on your note catcher, you can take this. I want you to just look at these 5 questions really quickly and rate yourself on currently how much this is happening in your classroom, or if you're in another capacity, you can think about your school as a whole, however it makes sense to you. And you're thinking about SEL and whether you use it daily, weekly, occasionally, rarely, or never. So take a moment and read through those, and then we're going to discuss them.
Are we responding to these questions or just making note of them?
You can respond for yourself on your note catcher. And then what I want you to think about next is, as you look at your responses, what do you notice about your current SEL practices? What do you notice about your relationship to SEL now? So is it something that is already being incorporated a lot into your classroom? Is it something that you are working on occasionally? Is it, if you look at this and you very honestly assess it, say it's something that you never do in your classroom? And please let us know now, after you've looked at this and thought about it, how often are you using SEL practices in your space? And you can either put it in the chat or you can come off of mute and talk to me. But I would love for you to come off and share with us or share in the chat what you've noticed based on this, how often you're able to currently incorporate SEL. I appreciate all the people who have their cameras on. Who is going to be a brave person and in our social emotional learning space, share with us? Oh, I see one new message. Daily, amazing. Let me know, are there other people who are able to do this daily? Are you noticing that you're not? And if you would like to come off and tell us a little bit more about that. If you are not, why not? What is preventing you from doing that? Oh, I'm getting some dailies.
Hello.
Hi, I'm seeing Naleli. Is that correct?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just coming out from work, so I'm on my way home.
All right.
But I'm gonna stop. So I mean, right now I am just getting into the whole format, and I do have the SEL teachers that come in, but I'm not 100% sure whether the regular teacher has to incorporate that into a class, or does it depend what subject is being taught?
That's a great question. And we're looking to, and you'll be able to see when we look more at the CASEL 5 and our benchmarks, that we're trying to integrate it every day into everything. So how can we set up the classroom so that it's SEL friendly? How can we build it into academics? And how can we make sure that we're daily doing that? So that is our goal. S. Walker, I see you coming off mute. Would you like to share with us?
Yes, I would like to share with you.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'm also on my way home and it's very noisy where I am. But I'm special ed math, and usually a lot of times, at least more than 3 times a week, I do have to incorporate some sort of SEL, in my classroom environment.
Oh, so you're doing it several times a week. That's wonderful. So
Definitely.
weekly is if people are there starting weekly. If you're already doing it daily, whatever it is, we're going to look at it, we're going to think, and we're going to have time later in this so that people can share. So people who are doing it daily and have great ideas can share, and people who need ideas can share. Because there are many ways to do this. So let's look at why we need to do this. So in case anyone, I'm trying to mute those whose audio is on. I am very sorry that that's happening, and I'm going to ask my admin also to look at that. So I'm trying to whack them as I get them. But thanks for putting that in there. So I want to share this with you. This is really interesting research that backs up why we need to do this. So the Education Endowment Foundation, which is a nonprofit based in the UK, published a teaching and learning toolkit in which they researched 30 common educational practices, educational strategies, or structural changes. And for each strategy, they sifted through hundreds of studies to calculate, one, the academic impact, which is in the light blue, the evidence, how robust the empirical evidence is, which is in the dark blue, and the cost, which is in the red. So the more light blue it has, the more effective it was found to be. The more dark blue it has, the more evidence there is found about it, and the more red it has, the more it costs. So you can see, for example, people like to say reducing class size is going to fix everything. The survey showed, or the survey of evidence showed, that it has a little bit of impact, it has a little bit of evidence, and it has a huge cost. Whereas if we look at metacognition and self-regulation and SEL skill, it's a little bit of cost, a whole lot of evidence, and a whole lot of impact. In fact, the highest impact in the study. So I just wanted to share that with you to help you think if you need to talk why. And now I want to show you a short video clip about the science behind it. So if you're able to see your note catcher, you can take notes on this. But I just want you to listen to it. You'll be able to come back and look again. But as you listen to the video, I want you to think about the connections you make with the students or adults, because we all know when we think about social emotional learning, we have a lot of adults in our lives who still need a lot of work on it as well. So I want you to think about and make connections with students or others in your life so that you'll be ready to share with us some connections you've made about now you can see how they act. Here's why. Here's the science behind it. Please, again, I believe you'll be able to hear it, but please let me know in the chat so I can be sure that you're hearing this. And I'm just gonna move it forward a little bit.
Basically it's an approach that brings certain core concepts about the way the brain works into educational settings. Now, that it's interesting that it's been framed as a trauma-informed approach, which it is, but the reality is it has universal application across the entire spectrum of children, whether you've had no adversity or a lot of adversity. And, there are really teaching people about how the brain processes information, what are the circumstances by which we learn optimally, what are the most effective ways to shape behavior. Things like that are universally applicable, and that's kind of what we do with this model. One of the things that we teach with the neurosequential model is a very simple way to think about this. And it basically is that in order to get to the cortex, to be able to reason with somebody, you first need to be connected with them in some way, relationally connected. And so that's kind of the middle part of the brain. But before you can sort of effectively connect with somebody, there has to be at least a minimal degree of regulation. So a very dysregulated kid who's afraid is not going to be able to successfully be engaged. And if you can't engage them to sort of be with you in this moment, they're certainly not going to be able to cognitively learn anything. So we talk about this sequence of engagement: regulate, relate, and then reason. And one of the things that we see that happens all the time, both with parenting and coaching and teaching, is that all too often we adults try to reason with somebody before they're regulated. And of course, that never really works. I mean, all of us, probably had the experience of somebody, coming up to us when we're sort of frustrated and saying, calm down. And as you well know, that very rarely works. In fact, it usually escalates you, makes you feel even more dysregulated. So the fundamental principle of this neurosequential model is to appreciate that the brain is involved in learning, the neuro part. Sequential is that the processing and development of the brain is sequential. And then really the third part is that you have to adhere, you have to follow the rules. You have to follow the rules of the biological organization of the brain if you're going to be successful in parenting, teaching, coaching. I think one of the most important things that educators need to understand about the brain is the way the brain processes incoming information. And the reason that's so important is that the human brain is basically organized in a hierarchical way. So there's kind of a bottom part of the brain, a middle part, and then the top part. And the top part is an area we call the cortex. And I think most everybody's heard of that. And the cortex is the most uniquely human part of the brain. And all of the networks up in the cortex are the systems that help us learn language. They're responsible for sort of autobiographical memory. They're responsible for the ability to think about the future, to think about the past, and essentially every topic that an educator will teach has to get to systems in the cortex. And so really the job of the educator and the job of the coach and the job of the parent and the job of anybody who wants to sort of change the human part of the brain is to get to the cortex. Now the dilemma is that when I talk with you, the sound waves are translated into pattern neuronal activity that go into lower parts of the brain. And then they get processed, and then they go to the middle part of the brain, and they get processed, and then they finally get to the top part of the brain. And so you don't automatically teach by having a really good thing in the teacher's cortex that immediately gets into the cortex of the child. And so what you have to do is get through the middle part of the teacher's brain, the lower part of the teacher's brain, out into space, into the lowest part of the student's brain, into the middle part of the student's brain, and then finally up to the cortex. So there's a lot of places where that can go wrong. And the reason educators need to understand a little bit about stress, distress, and trauma is that all of those things will interfere with that process in ways sometimes subtle, but sometimes in really extreme ways. You may have a child.
Okay, so thinking about that, I'm going to go to the next slide because it has some of the things that he's talking about. So he's talking about the different parts of the brain and how we are trying to get from the lower part of the brain up into the cortex. And when we do that, we've got to go from our cortex down through all the parts of the brain and up through all the other the student's part of the brain, and there are a lot of places that can get lost. So thinking about making connections with students or anyone that you're dealing with, what are some of the connections or implications this has for our teaching as we think about the brain science between making connections with people? You can put it in the chat, or I'd love for you to come and share with us again. Christy, I can see your mouth moving. Are you talking to us? Because you're muted. Oh. Yes, I'd be happy to repeat the question. When you think about the science of what is happening when we as the educator are trying to communicate with the student at the highest level of functioning, and now we have some science about how that is happening, we have to go from our cortex and work its way up into the student's cortex. What does that mean for us, or what connections can you make for that with your interactions with students or people every day? Christy, there you go. Thank you for unmuting and sharing.
Sorry, there are a few of us in the room that are on the thing. What I wanted to say was that the way that I'm connecting to it is that I see a couple of times that I have to change the language when I speak to the students, because even the way you say something, you can tell that they're not understanding you. So I feel I'm connecting that to, you have to get it through your mouth and then into their brain.
Yeah, that's so important. And noticing as the teacher, and how do you notice, Christy, what are some clues you're using that let you know that it's not getting from your cortex to theirs?
When they're just sitting there kind of like looking very confused, and I'm like, okay, now I have to change the way that I said whatever it was that I said.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I'm seeing some things in the chat. Language is definitely important. Thinking of how students will understand before you question them so that you use their language, making it easier for them to understand. Right. Thinking it through before you ever thinking how you get it out of your cortex, what language you're using. And also the component that is this clip was focusing on with stress or trauma. It doesn't matter what language you use if the person who you're trying to get the message to is too stressed for it to come in and work its way up to the cortex. Does that make sense? So you could say it perfectly, but if your student is still under stress, they're not going to be able to hear it. And you know that for yourself, right? Because if you're upset and someone comes to you and they even say something wonderful about your puppies, your new puppies, you're like, you missed the whole thing. So we need to be thinking about what are the ways that we are reducing stress and helping students learn to manage that for themselves. Y'all are putting really great things in the chat.
I wanted to also say, like you mentioned, you have to know at what moment it is that you're going to be speaking to them, and depending on how the student is as well, depending on their behavior, their moods, or whatever the situation was, because like you said, you're going to be, instead of making it better, it's going to come out for the worst, and it might go into a bigger problem because of trying to solve it. So sometimes, even though it's hard because you want to make it stop at that moment, you want to help them, make it better, but sometimes it's best to just let it go down by itself. Just say, okay, let's just have a moment, and then afterwards, just come back to it and speak with them about it.
Yes, a way to de-escalate. There have to be strategies to de-escalate. And I see, Camilla, your hand is raised. Would you like to share with us?
Yes, hi everyone. I just want to share, like, because I'm 3K teacher, and sometimes it's very hard with this age of kids. So I love to read the books about the emotions, about the feelings, and every day I'm using the feeling chart.
Hello?
Yes, you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, and every day I'm using the feeling chart. So if the kids feel sad, upset, so I always try to talk with them or read the book about the feelings.
Yes, and you're starting it. So you're at ground zero of our SEL education, and then we're going to keep doing it and building on it all the way, well, forever, honestly. So thank you for sharing what, the feeling chart and how thinking through how this might be for your particular age level. So in 12th grade, you're not going to have a feeling chart, but what are you going to have that's still helping your students develop and mature the way they are able to discuss their feelings and think about and talk about them?
Yeah, I don't have experience with a higher grade because I'm early childhood teacher, but like I have a son, he's 16. So I have, like, this experience every day, daily with him. And
oh my goodness,
especially this age, I always try to talk with him, and like I try to be friend, not like mommy, like friends, because I always say, like, if you have something, you better come and tell me, and maybe I will try help you. Then you will go somewhere and ask someone else.
yes. Oh my gosh, you have both ends of it, Camilla. Thank you so much for sharing with us. All right, I want to share with you now our next big segment, which is called the CASEL 5. And it is when you look at the big colors in the middle in the circle, these are the big categories of social emotional learning. So we have self-awareness and self-management. And if they're the same color, they kind of go together. We have social awareness and relationship skills, and then all by itself, we have responsible decision making. So these are the big, broad, interrelated areas and competencies that CASEL has chosen, and they can be taught and applied at all developmental ages and stages, from childhood to adulthood and across diverse cultural contexts. So a lot of states, including New York State, have used this framework to establish their own competencies and benchmarks. So in addition to the 3 competencies, there are 4 different areas or locations we think about having them. The one that we start with is our classroom. We move out to our entire school community, our families and caregivers, and then the community at large that our school is situated in. All right, so we're going to watch one more short video that tells you a little bit about that before we go to the New York State benchmarks and then some breakout group discussion.
Think about the young people in your lives and all the different places where they're learning about themselves, how to relate to others, and work together on goals. How can we intentionally create learning experiences that will help all young people develop and maintain positive relationships, become lifelong learners, and contribute to a more caring, just world? Educators, researchers, community members, families, and the students themselves agree what we need is social and emotional learning, or SEL. SEL is the process through which young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes that help us to understand ourselves, connect with others, achieve our goals, and support our communities. We all need opportunities to learn and engage in environments where we feel safe, valued, and a sense of belonging. So how does SEL help schools, families, and communities work together so that all young people have these kinds of learning experiences and achieve success in education, careers, and life? CASEL's framework identifies 5 areas of competence that together help us develop a healthy sense of who we are,
manage stress, understand the views of others, and work together to create schools and communities where everyone can grow their strengths and interests. Self-awareness is about how we think about ourselves and who we are. It includes understanding our culture, our thoughts, feelings, and what we believe we're capable of, and understanding how these things can influence our behaviors and beliefs. Self-management is the ability to manage those emotions, thoughts, and actions in different situations so that we can achieve individual and collective goals. This includes coping with stress and anxiety, persevering through challenges, and taking action to create positive change. Social awareness is how we understand others, how we learn to take different perspectives and empathize even with people who are different from us. It also includes understanding how the broader norms and systems around us influence how we develop and create a sense of belonging. Relationship skills are how we connect and engage effectively with others, and how we form lasting friendships and connections. This includes communicating clearly, solving problems together, managing conflict and disagreements, and standing up for ourselves and the rights of others. Lastly, responsible decision-making is how we put it all together to make caring and constructive choices. This includes thinking critically about consequences, analyzing the impact of our actions on ourselves and others, and identifying solutions that support our collective well-being. We continue to develop and practice SEL throughout our lives and can adapt and apply these competencies across different contexts and cultures. How we develop SEL is impacted by our environments, which is why we need to work together across classrooms, schools, families, and communities. In the classroom, students can be explicitly taught SEL skills and also can practice and apply SEL during core subjects, like discussing different perspectives in social studies and language arts, or collaboratively problem solving in science or math. SEL is most effective when supported by evidence-based programs and trusting relationships where students are treated as partners in their learning. Beyond the classroom, SEL can be intentionally promoted throughout the school experience, from the way they're greeted in the morning to how discipline practices are carried out and how adults themselves develop and model positive relationships and the SEL competencies. Outside of school, families and caregivers provide the earliest and ongoing learning and interactions for their children, so it's important that schools listen to and authentically partner with families to help shape SEL priorities and strategies for supporting their children. Similarly, when schools partner with community organizations to align their efforts, SEL opportunities can be strengthened and students benefit even more. With SEL, we can help create schools and learning spaces where all young people feel connected, inspired, engaged, and ready to contribute to the world around them.
All right, so in addition to the CASEL 5, I wanted to show you the New York State benchmark. So this wonderful chart tells you the CASEL strategy and the benchmark goal for New York State. There are 3. So you can see self-awareness and self-management go with our SEL benchmark 1, which is that young people develop self-awareness that nurtures and affirms their sense of identity and informs decisions about their actions and builds agency within them. Goal 2 links with social awareness and relationship skills, and that's young people use social awareness and interpersonal skills to establish, navigate, and maintain mutually supportive relationships with individuals and groups that build a sense of belonging. And then the last, responsible decision-making, goes with New York State's benchmark goal 3, which is that young people demonstrate intentional decision-making skills and behaviors that consider social, emotional, and physical safety and well-being in all of these contexts. So here's what I want us to do now. Now I'd like you to have some time to talk to each other. So you're going to choose one of these color-coded categories you're interested in reading a little bit more about and sharing. So you can do self-awareness and self-management, which is orange, social awareness and relationship skills in green, or responsible decision-making. This is where you're going to need your note catcher. I'm going to show you, I'm going to put the link in the chat again, in case you haven't had a chance, to open it. And you're going to scroll down to our last activity. So in your note catcher, you have the CASEL alignment with our benchmarks, but you're going to find the chart that has your color. So if you choose category 1, you're going to come here and you're going to see a list of ideas that come from New York State Ed that can help with self-awareness and self-management. And then I want you to think about how could these ideas be modified for your particular grade level or levels, your school or community. So I have a chart like that for each of the categories. I want you to choose one and read your the ideas and do your brainstorming for a few minutes. And then I'm going to put you into a breakout room. You could be in a breakout room with all people in your category, or there may be different categories. But what I want you to do when you get to your breakout room is share what your category was and the ideas you came up with or questions that you might have for the people in your group, so that you're sharing ideas for your different grade levels and understandings. So you have the directions here on your note catcher. So choose your color, or you can do it by color or number, and put in the chat which one you're planning on focusing on right now, so I can see that we're understanding each other. So you can either say, I'm doing 1, or I'm doing orange, or I've decided I want to focus on this green, or 2, or 3, which is yellow. And then you're going to take a few minutes to read your category and brainstorm by yourself. And while you're doing that, I'm going to put you in a breakout room where you're going to share your ideas and questions. Great. I'm seeing people picking different categories. And admin, make sure you see Takita has a question if you're using iPhone. How does that work for breakout rooms? All right. So everyone, your job now is to be reading your special category ideas and imagining how they might be modified for your particular situation. And while you do that, I'm going to set up our breakout rooms. If you are confused or have questions, please come off mute and ask me, and I am happy to help clarify. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes to read and brainstorm, and then I'm going to open the breakout rooms for you.
Hi, are we just reading those little checkbox?
Yes, and then you're considering, Mark, how you might use those or modify them for your particular grade level or levels, school, community, or families.
Well, I was looking at the responsible decision making, and it's more related to, it seems like remote.
I'm sorry, related to
I guess
what?
a remote, it looks like it's related to a remote environment.
Yeah, a lot of the New York State things are so that you could use them remote, but you can think about them, how then might you do them in person in your classroom?
Okay.
You can decide, would you like to think about remote, or you can say, okay, what could this look like where I'm in my space in person?
Are you sending us to the breakout room, or because if we're on the phone, I can't get in the breakout rooms?
I am going to open the breakout rooms now, and then if you can't get in a breakout room, our admin will help you get in one. So it's opening now, and in your breakout room, be prepared to share some ideas you have for SEL practices based on your category. I am opening all of the rooms. So hopefully you are able to quickly move to your room to talk to your new friends.
If you're on your phone, you should see a pop-up on your screen asking you to move over to the breakout room.
Thank you, Beth. Looks like everyone is getting there. Beth, are you able to move these people, or should we just have them be in the main room and be their own group here?
I see that everyone is assigned to a breakout room. Unfortunately, it won't let me, like actually move them. I think they have to accept.
Then everyone who is still in the main room, if you are unable to move to your breakout room, that's fine. We can use the main room as your breakout room. So if you are staying here, it would be really helpful if you can to put your camera on so we can see who's actually staying here, and you can use this space to share together. Unless y'all have just all disappeared, in which case that's fine too. You'll let us know.
I can try switching people's breakout rooms to see if it will give them a new pop-up. I'm not sure if that will help.
You've gotten it down to a very small number of people. So if they're here, they could have a breakout room right here. Are you here? Amy, Zena, Michael, Maria, Denise, Maritza. Not sure, Beth, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Not. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. We actually just had a new person join, so I'm going to assign her to a room. We had a couple more people who just joined, so I assigned them to rooms as well.
Hi, Miss Caroline. Would it be possible if you could send the link again, because I signed on from my laptop? So I want to see if it's possible for me to download it here this time.
Carolyn, you're muted, by the way.
Thanks for letting me know. The answer was yes, and I just put it in the chat so that it's there for you to try again. All right. I think we're all back. So we're coming down to the last few minutes. And so here's what I'd like you to do. Our last thing I'm going to share with you is I'd like you to consider as we wrap up today, making a goal for yourself of something that from your discussion or from the ideas on the idea sheet, what can you commit to trying in your classroom next week? So if you're already doing this daily, wonderful. What's one of these things you could throw in there daily? If you're doing this weekly, maybe you could add this in addition. So take a moment on your note catcher and you can write your SMART goal. We also have a few minutes at this time if you have any comments or questions you'd like to make in our last few minutes. Please either do so in the chat or you can come off mute as you think about your goal that you would like to try to implement.
I still wasn't able to get it, so I don't know how. Maybe I'm the only one with the issue, but I wasn't able to.
Beth, I have no ideas left. Do you? And will it also be in the link that you send everyone with the link to the recording so that I don't.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes. So I'm not sure,
I
but
got the note catcher, but I'm trying to printing it, try to type in it. Do I need to release something? So I could print in it. Because I'm putting I don't know if because I have them trying to do side by side or.
I have it set so anyone with the link should be able to edit it.
Okay, let me try it again.
So I'm so sorry if it's not working. I've checked and double checked that part.
Okay.
Are you tapping
Yeah, we can't edit from our phones for some reason.
Are you tapping the pencils?
No, I have it side by side on the computer, with the screen stack. What do they call that again? And the screens are one behind the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all I did was tap the pencil, and then on the bottom it says,
"Oh, you tapped it." Okay, let me see. Thank you.
Thank you. You're so much smarter as a whole. All right. So here's something I would like to share with you. This course is one of 3 that Solved has currently on SEL. So this was the importance of social emotional learning. We have another one with even more ideas on how to create strategies for each of the categories in the CASEL 5. And then our course C is tools for teaching and integrating, and it focuses on how to do self-care as a teacher and how to use that to model it for students as well. So those will be coming. This one is next Monday, B is next Monday, and C is the next Monday. So you can register for those at the link that I will give you. It's on your note catcher as well, but I'm going to put it. Oh no, where did it go? It's not on my note catcher. It disappeared. Hold on one moment and I will have those 2 links for you. One is for a PD survey that I would like you to take a moment and fill out. And the other is where you can register for more courses through Solved if you would like to. So one moment.
I got the registration one, Carolyn.
You do, thank you.
I got the survey.
Oh, thank you. I thought I had, well, I know I had, but now they're not on my note catcher, but I'm going to put them on the note catcher for you. But please go to complete the survey here. Please take a moment to do that. It helps us know what worked, what didn't work for you, and how we can make this even better. And I hope if you're interested in continuing the discussion on SEL, you'll join me for the next 2 Mondays. But so it's 3:30. If you have more comments or questions you would like to ask, please feel free to stay for a few minutes. If you need to go, please open the form. And you do not have to stay online with me on Zoom to finish it, but I would love it if you could take a moment and do that quickly. If it helps you to stay here and do it, please do. But as soon as you're finished with that form or you have it open, you are free to go today. Thank you so much for joining me and Solved for this presentation.